I'm Cathy.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Ola, and welcome to Storygraph Book Club! I like donuts!
Yesterday was the full moon in October 17th, and the October full moon was the Hunter's moon. Now we are doing a series this year where we make a video themed around what the theme of the moon is for that month, and as it is the Hunter's moon, I suggested to Cathy, why don't we talk about Dracula, because there's a group of characters in that who hunt Dracula. Do you see my logic there?
I do,
like the vampire hunter.
And Dracula hunts other people.
Of course, Dracula hunts other people. So does Lucy.
Yes.
So
hunting all around.
Now we are. So because it is spooky season, we picked a more on theme brand, and we've gone with Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'm now going to hand over to Cathy, who's going to lead our video today, because you have read a physical copy.
Yeah!
Yeah! Because Dracula is a classic, I think sometimes classics are a bit intimidating to start. Especially like this one was written, I think in like 1897, so it's like just at the end of the 1800s. But actually the plot, it's not too daunting, I think, once you know what it is. So the main plot that happens in like 3 parts is, first of all, a young guy called Jonathan Hawker goes to Romania to help a count sort out his papers for buying a property in England. But when he's there, it turns out the count is like a very weird dude and it's freaking him out, and you kind of realise that Hawker can't leave the castle. And there's these scary women, and it's all very creepy, and that's like part 1. And then there's part 2, which is like Dracula coming to England. I'm putting some mild spoilers. We're going to go full spoiler, aren't we?
Probably, yeah.
We're going to end up going full spoiler. And then part 2, Dracula comes to England on a boat, and you get like the captain's journals as things go.
Spooky!
Spooky. People start disappearing on the boat. There's fewer and fewer people until the captain, all alone, has to helm like this ghost ship into Whitby Bay. That's very creepy and atmospheric.
Spooky!
Spooky! Then we kind of shift over to 2 women, Mina and Lucy, who are in Whitby at the time. Lucy starts having very strange symptoms.
Is that still in part 2?
I think, is it still part 2? Maybe there's 4 parts.
I'm going to interject here and say that I have never read Dracula as a book.
Yeah.
Because Dracula is in the public domain, I subscribed to a newsletter service that sent me Dracula in order. So I have read it as things were happening and when.
Yeah, you read it in order.
It's called Dracula Daily. I'll link it down below in case anyone fancies it. It was fun to do. So I don't know what is put into what section at all. Anyway, I'll pass this back to you.
Yeah!
This is the talking book.
So yeah, there's a part where Lucy is kind of hunted by Dracula and succumbs to him and perishes.
Yeah!
I know.
That's not good.
Straight away after Lucy's died, other children around start talking about somebody stalking them in the night, the buffer lady. She's meant to be like beautiful lady. And a group start to form who realise that Lucy has been turned into a vampire. And they have to sort her out. And then they start hunting for the main vampire, Dracula, who then turns his attentions to Mina, who happens to be John Hawker's fiancée. Hawker escapes the castle, by the way, and he goes, I think, to Bulgaria first, and then comes back to England. So then John, Mina, a bunch of people who were trying to get married to Lucy, and somebody's old professor who ends up being Van Helsing, team up together to hunt Dracula. And then it kind of becomes a race against the clock. Their hunt gets closer and closer to Dracula, but at the same time, Dracula's also pursuing Mina, and it's like, who's going to get there first? Are they going to get to Dracula and kill him, or is Dracula going to fully take over Mina, and is her soul going to be lost forever to like the vampire curse? So that's the plot of Dracula. And the cool thing about Dracula, especially for its time, is that, there's a special word for it, and I can't pronounce it. But it is like an epistolary novel.
Epistolary?
Yeah, epistolary.
I don't know if that's actually... I don't know. That's how I always say it.
I would describe it as a found footage novel. The entire novel is made up out of diary entries and letters and journals and newspaper articles. So, like Rachel says, you read it very differently to I did, because I read it like just as the book, and you read it in chronological order.
Yes. Where some days you'd get nothing, some days it would just be very short. Like, so there's the captain's log on the Demeter, and sometimes it's maybe like 3 lines of the day. And then there are other days where, especially towards the end, when they're in Transylvania, you're reading for ages. It's like 50 pages in an email. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I would be really interested to read it in its actual format, because in my head, it's much thicker than this. Because I think I borrowed it from my high school library when I was at high school, and I think I maybe read 3 pages and then returned it. But in my head, it's quite a chunky book, but this is not a chunky book.
No, that's quite manageable. This is like the classic vampire novel. Lots of people will be reading it for Halloween. How would you rate it as a scary story?
I don't actually think it's that scary. Dracula is an intimidating man, but sometimes I feel like the methods that he employs are quite cartoonish.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it's hard to judge now. Does it seem cartoonish to us? Because perhaps our first encounters with Dracula might well have been a cartoon.
Yeah, maybe.
Like he's that much a part of the culture now.
But also, because I was reading it in like small bursts, in chronological order, and like people were talking about it with each other online, like maybe that's poisoned my
your experience
of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sure. What do you think? Do you think it's spooky?
Yeah, I think when I was reading it for myself the first time, I really enjoyed how out and out horror it was, especially like the first portion when Hawker goes to Transylvania and ends up in Count Dracula's castle. It's very atmospheric. Like, it's just out and out horror. It's so part of our culture now that whenever we see these things happen, they're tropes, and it's kind of done ironically.
Yeah.
Or like there's jokes in there. And this had like, I don't want to say no sense of humour because there are bits that are funny, but like, it's just doing it very sincerely. It's out and out horror. It's there to creep you out. And the first bit, especially Hawker in that castle, I think does that. Later on, I think it loses some of that scariness, and maybe some of that is because we don't feel what this visual audience feared. Like, I found it interesting when I was reading this how much, and again this is a bit of like my Christian perspective coming in, a huge thing that worries these characters is not just that they're going to die or that they're going to be turned into a vampire and
they'll be damned.
They'll be damned.
Yeah.
They are scared about the damnation of their soul, which is really, it's a weird concept for me to understand because it's almost like wrapped in a Christian argument of, you know, you're damned or you're saved, except believing that you could be damned by the actions of somebody who isn't you. Because that's not Christian at all. Like, that's something very out there that something else could corrupt your soul without you choosing that corruption.
Yeah, and when does the soul end? Because when Lucy becomes a vampire, she dies and then rises again as a vampire. Like, surely her soul is gone.
Yeah. Well, that's how, like, other vampire lore now exists. Like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They would say, oh, their vampires work in that, yeah, your soul dies and then the demon soul takes over your body and lives in you. And can remember your memories, but they aren't you. But this doesn't seem to be saying that. So there's this fear of a soul that can be damned. And I don't know if that maybe strikes the same sense of fear.
I think there's also the fear of the alien, the foreigner, the unknown.
Yes.
That in today's society, with the advancement of travel and communication, is a much lesser threat than people in England would have perceived it to be in the 1890s, in the 1900s.
Yeah. I also found it quite fun and scary, the captain's log. Because I just felt for the poor guy.
This is a cat. Meow.
That just looked like a void on screen, but that was actually our cat comment.
The atmosphere of the mists on the ocean and things like that, I feel like that adds to.
And especially the moment when the ship comes into Whitby and everybody's crowding around and then a big dog leaps off. That's all. I loved all that. And I loved that something was set in Whitby because we can get to Whitby.
What do you mean by that?
Because I love it when really good books are set in places that I can go visit and see and like absorb the atmosphere.
Literary tourism!
Yeah, I love it. And Whitby.
We visited a Harry Potter castle.
We did. And like Whitby is so the perfect setting
I don't
for
think
that
I've
scene.
ever been to Whitby.
Oh, you'd love it. It's very misty, and there's a ruined abbey on top of the cliffs, and they have to tell people at the abbey that Dracula isn't really buried there.
Love that.
Yeah, it's a really good place to go visit, and there's lots of cool shops. Let's talk about Mina as a character, because I think she's really interesting.
I think she is really cool. I think the novel explores gender and gender roles in an interesting way.
Yes, I think so too.
That's all I have to say. I don't know.
You're like, I'm not writing an essay, I don't have to justify anything. No, I agree. I like that Mina, like, she researches things, she's proactive.
Yeah, she has a lot of her own agency, doesn't she?
She really does, and like, she sets out to like help John, she wants to save Lucy, she's very quick-witted, and like the most frustrating part in the novel to me, that like most cried out of like sexism, is when Mina kind of makes all these discoveries about about Dracula,
and then they're like, you have to stay behind to be safe.
Oh, yeah. It's like she pieces it all together and she goes, right guys, I've collected all my thoughts, I've put it in a logical manner, here's all the evidence for it, this is what Dracula's going to do. And they're like, yes, you're right. We're going to go deal with it. You, who we already know at this point that Dracula's hunting you.
Yeah.
You stay here in this room whilst we all go away to do things without you. And then, of course, that's the moment when Dracula comes in and, like, really nearly, like, completely kills her. And that just seems so stupidly sexist. But then it is so stupidly sexist. Do you think that was done purposefully?
I think so. I think so. I don't really know. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about Bram Stoker to make that commitment
All of her friends
to
are
that.
psychopaths.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, they take Mina with them in the end, don't
Yeah.
they? And her connection to Dracula and all the research that she's done, it's really important to their end outcome.
Yeah. And, like, the men risk their lives to try and save her specifically. And again, you could look at that and go,
Damsel in distress.
damsel in distress, we're not into it. But you get the feeling that they're not just doing that because she is a woman, but because
They love her.
they love her and she's in peril, and they're doing what they can to save her, even though most of them, like, they love her platonically. So she's all, you know, she's married at this point to a fiance.
Yeah.
So I like that. I think there's a real purity to that. That makes you root for them. So as we said, this is like a found footage novel. I really love that style.
Epistolary.
Epistolary. It's an epistolary. Oh. I'm not joking. There's some words I cannot say. Epistolary.
How
Yes.
would you show them?
Imagine if that's not actually how you say it. I'm so confident that it is. I think it's right.
I'm never going to Google it. So, like, this is how it's pronounced now. I love this style of novel. I love it when it's like diary entries, letters, especially when it's like pieced together different things. I really enjoy it.
I agree.
Yay!
It's just playing with format is just, I really love when people do that.
Yeah, same.
Because everyone has a different voice.
Yeah.
Like, there's clearly written by different people, which I really like.
Yes.
Well, actually written by one person because the author.
Yeah. So it's written by one person, and yet he's written it in a way.
In 12 perspectives.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's really clever.
I think that's really clever too. And I think it must be really hard to pull off, so it's impressive when they do.
Yeah.
Because I've read plenty of novels which are meant to be like dual perspectives, like two different characters narrating events.
But then they kind of feel the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read stuff. Yeah.
But this feels like actual different people writing. Even how like they approach their diaries and entries. I look like Hawker's become more deranged the longer they go on. And Mina's very methodical.
I thought because it's the Hunter's Moon, it might be fun to find out which hunter of the gang we are in Dracula. Ooh. So I've got some character quizzes that I found on the internet that I'll link below if you want to do them yourself.
I want to do
and I thought we could take them.
Okay.
And find out which hunter we are. I mean, we could also be Dracula or Renfield, but I don't think we will be.
Yeah.
Just based on what I know of your personality. In fact, which of the hunting team would you most like to be? Who do you want to get?
Is Mina included?
Yeah.
I want to be Mina.
Okay.
Like the others, there's Van Helsing. He's like the old school guy. Hawker is a bit of a wet blanket for me.
A wet blanket. What is that supposed to mean?
I don't know.
Wet
He's broody, he's
blanket.
whiny, he's full of angst. Then there's Quincy.
Quincy's cool.
Yeah, he makes the ultimate sacrifice at the end. I'm going to get
Yeah.
these mixed up a bit. Then is it Seward?
That's
Seward.
not how I would say it, but yeah.
Seward?
Well, I would say Seward. but
Seward, that
I don't
makes
really
more sense.
know. I don't know.
See,
John. Let's call him John.
John.
There's Lucy's fiance.
What was he called?
He's called Arthur.
Arthur.
And he's like a.
Oh, he's
I
a
think
good
I
boy.
would want to be Arthur. He's a good boy.
He's a good boy.
Why do you always say that about characters? He's a good boy.
It's like a character archetype. The good
Yeah,
boy. I always love
the
good
golden
boy.
retriever
Yeah.
guy. A guy who's just good
Arthur
and wants
has-
to help people.
Arthur has golden retriever energy.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. Is that who you are? Yeah. Alright, let's do this quiz. I want to do the quiz.
Okay.
So we're doing this personality quiz. Which character from Dracula are you?
Yes.
Okay. Let's start off things easily. What place sounds the most appealing to you? A coastal town bustling with life, a train where I can see fruit trees blossoming while looking at the landscape, an intriguing but mysterious mansion begging me to unravel its secrets, home with the people I love and care about, a historic but old building where people used to live. As long as it allows me to calm down, I'm happy anywhere. The big city filled with various people I can learn from. That one place that carries painful memories, even if it hurts, it is too soon to let go.
I know which one.
Which one would you pick?
A place where people love me and care about me.
Yeah, I think that's what I'd pick
I think
too.
that's what I pick as well.
It's hard to beat that. Hard to beat home. What is your favourite type of vampire story? Romantic ones, even though it isn't exactly the ideal genre given its close ties to horror. As long as it has vampires, I'm content. I'm not a big fan of vampire stories, if I'm honest. I don't really mind the type as long as it stays grounded. Stories that emphasise the bond between people and having them overcome the vampires. Stories that emphasise the lives of vampires. Horror. I want to read about how horrifying it would be to deal with vampires. I'm more interested in the setting. I'd love to see something not taking place in England or Transylvania, or something that can poke fun at the tropes associated with vampires. I'm going horror. That's what I want in a vampire story.
I think I'm going to pick stories that emphasise the bonds between people and having them overcome the vampires.
Nice.
A friend says that they want to bring you along on a journey to hunt vampires. How do you respond?
Definitely not.
Despite feeling terrified at the thought, you decide to stick with your friend. Knowing that your friend is going to need emotional support, you decide to come. Only when other people join you too as well.
I think this is based on the friend, not you.
Decline, but go after a vampire on your own. Regardless of your own feelings, you come along to protect your friend. You ask whether people have been attacked, being more concerned about people's well-being. Before you decide on anything, you ask your friend to provide some proof of the vampire's existence. You decline. If there is a vampire around here, you'd rather make sure that your family is safe. You are disgusted, questioning why someone would hunt down a vampire. I'd be asking for proof.
I would, despite feeling terrified at the thought, you decide to stick with your friend.
What would you do?
It.
You would not do it. Regardless of your last answer, you are forced to pick one item for your journey. What will you pick? A small knife that I can hide easily. Dogs. They can provide emotional support and possibly help out. Common sense. A book with obscure information on vampires. It may come in handy. A gun. Even if it doesn't kill the vampire, it allows us to defend ourselves from it. No items, just improvisation and using your creativity. Whatever happens will happen. A notebook where I can write down my thoughts and experiences. I resign myself to fate, but a letter from a friend could provide some emotional support. A shovel? It's the only thing I have laying around. Okay, do you know what? I want to say, like, right now, after that list, I'll be like, I want to take a gun.
Uh-huh.
Really? I'd be the one taking a notebook.
Yeah, you definitely would. What do you think I would pick?
No items. What would you take, Ola?
The book about vampires.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
You're
I'm
the
very
researcher.
intelligent.
You are.
I'm the best at using dictionaries in my class.
No. Oh, there you go.
Love that. Which one of these sounds the most like you?
Useless cucumber. Hopeless romantic. I'm perfection incarnate. Overworked dad. Depressed but managing somehow. Goth. ready to throw hands with whoever is messing up your life. I'm about to do something stupid and reckless, but it's okay, I'm beautiful. Just vibing. Oh, this is hard.
Just vibing, that's me.
You're just vibing.
Yeah, I'm just vibing.
I'm going to click depressed but managing somehow.
I knew you were going to pick that one. So I have to go overworked dad.
That's fair.
That's me. What do you consider one of your biggest flaws or problems? Trusting people too easily. I don't take care of myself and instead focus on others. That I won't meet the expectations that people have set out for me. I'm aimless. I don't know what to do with my life. Sometimes it feels like I don't exist when I'm around my friends. That no matter how much I try to help people, something goes wrong and I blame myself for it. That people think I'm annoying or too nosy. I'm afraid to face the truth. Renfield is legitimately a victim of Dracula and struggles with mental illness, but gets brushed off as a ooh scary guy due to ableism in this essay. I will. That's what
The last one.
the last one would that be you? I think that no matter how much I try to help people, something goes wrong and I blame myself for it.
I'm going to click that people think I'm annoying or too nosy. Pick a quote.
I want to ask you, do you think love can bloom even on a battlefield? I raised you and loved you. I've given you weapons, taught you techniques, endowed you with knowledge. There's nothing more for me to give you. All that's left for you to take is my life. Oh, that's a good one. Free will is a myth. Religion is a joke. We are all pawns controlled by something greater. I'm gonna make him give back our past. Take back everything that we've lost, and I won't rest until we do. A strong man doesn't need to read the future. He makes his own. I'm a shadow, one that no light will shine on. As long as you follow me, you will never see the day.
Oh, I like the shadow one.
Ooh. What little time I have left will be spent living as a beast, a shadow of the inside of the old age. Building the future and keeping the past alive are one and the same thing. Hey, lighten up a little. I like the one about I've raised you and I'm going to give you everything and then my life.
I'm going to click the one about the past and the future. Building the future and keeping the past alive are one and the same thing.
Which one of these vague phrases do you like the most? Liberated liberator, world end dominator, resurrected replayer, birth of a new witch, ordeal of love, the great detective knows, mirage coordinator.
I think
This
the great
colour.
detective knows.
What is this supposed to mean? I like the great detective knows.
I also like the great detective knows. What would you do if you became a vampire?
I can't bear the thought of harming my friends. I will never become one. I would only become a vampire for love. I'm not sure if I'm being honest. My interest is piqued. Perhaps I would study it, though preferably I'd like to see someone else turned into a vampire. To join the undead is a horrid fate. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. I hope that being a vampire will make me realise what I'm meant to do in life. I don't know, I dislike the idea of living an aimless existence. To unite with my loved ones, of course. I'd try to go on with my life and find an alternative to drinking blood. There must be a way. I'm going to say, what's one about it's horrible. To join the undead is a horrid fate.
I'm going to click, I'm not sure, if I'm being honest. Next.
Next.
Who did you get?
I got Abraham Van Helsing. What did you get?
I got Mina.
You didn't get the Dracula result because you are too nice to be a Dracula kinney. Jokes aside, you always have some wild stories to tell, which can make people think you're a bit strange. Which is a shame because your kindness is often being looked over. As a certified dad friend, you take responsibility for everyone's actions and blame yourself whenever something bad happens to your friends. This is fun! You also encourage others to be vulnerable and take care of their mental health. I know that you want to break the tension during moments, but joking about cooking something... Try not to get too involved with other people's business. Sometimes they need some time and space to figure things out. Fun fact, in the novel he's described as looking like a himbo. When will we get a himbo Van Helsing movie?
That's a great question. Mina Harker, you're dealing with a lot of things at the moment and then suddenly someone bites you. Maybe that last part didn't happen, but it sometimes feels like you can't catch a break. Nevertheless, you're usually level-headed and able to deal with the most bizarre situations. Caring and outspoken, you're the token mum friend of the group. That being said, sometimes you just need to treat yourself. Covering for your loved ones is certainly noble, but there comes a time where you need to take a step back and take things easy. You deserve it.
Well, I think we've learned some unfortunate things about ourselves there.
Yeah. I'm sad that I'm not my golden retriever boy.
And I didn't get Mina. I got the old dude. So those are our thoughts about Dracula. If you take the personality quiz, please tell us what you get.
Yeah.
And if it got too uncomfortably close for the truth and then made you feel like you need to do some self-reflection.
Yeah, damn personality quizzes will get you, man.
We release videos every Friday. Like and subscribe to keep up with us.
Next week, we're talking about more vampires.
Oh, we are!
Come back for Louis.
Louis and Lestat.
Louis and Lestat. Next week. Bye.
Bye. Are you really gonna have read?
Yeah, of course. I'm like halfway through.
I'm sorry to doubt Rachel on camera. I'll regret that for next week's video.